Hey there, it's Izzy here. Over the past couple years, I've been focusing a lot on working on my skills associated with moving the camera. And when I say moving the camera, by the way, I'm not talking about panning and tilting. Panning and tilting just change the way the camera's pointed. They don't actually move the camera. I'm talking about moving the whole camera in 3D space, moving it up and down and forward and backward and side to side. In this video, I'm going to show you a few different ways that I like to move the camera, and I'll give you some tips along the way. Let's get started. The most basic way to move a camera is to handhold it, and generally, handholding is a very shaky way to move a camera, and shaky can be both good and bad. If you do it intentionally and it works for the video, then it's good. If you do it accidentally and it's distracting, then it's bad. Here is a shot of me handholding a camera on the set of a short film I'm producing called Within, and for this scene, we wanted a feeling of confusion, so shaky camera work seemed like it would help add that confused feeling to the shot. I should mention that handholding is my least favorite way to move a camera, but sometimes it's the only option, and it certainly has the least financial costs associated with it. Also, it's convenient because you always have your hands with you. Sometimes what you're looking for is more of a linear style movement, and in a case like that, a dolly move is what you want. You can get the look of a dolly movement a number of different ways, but using a dolly will definitely do it for you. Here's an example of a skateboard style dolly we used on the set of Within. Of course, there are several downsides to using dollies. They're time-consuming to set up, they can be pricey, although these skateboard-style dollies tend to be much cheaper. They can be inconvenient to carry around, and you usually need more than one person to set them up and use them. But I have to say, I love using dollies to move the camera. I like to put the camera low and then dolly it. I like to have it high and dolly it. By the way, when you move horizontally like this relative to the subject, this is frequently called a tracking shot or a trucking shot. Generally, when you move toward the subject, that's called dollying in. And moving away is called dollying out. You can also dolly in a circle. For this shot, the action is going to be in the middle, and we would dolly the camera in a circle around the action. Incidentally, it was my first time using this kind of dolly track, which is just a couple of heavy-duty hoses. And these homemade style dollies are great because they're inexpensive, but they can be very difficult to work with. For example, when we decided to move the whole circle over a couple feet, it took a long time because the hoses had to be repositioned in as perfect of circles as we could make them, and that was just majorly time-consuming. An alternative to a dolly is something that's called a slider. If you just need small moves, a slider can definitely do the trick for you. They're smaller than dolly tracks, they're more portable, easier to work with, they don't require all the extra people. Also, you can mount them on a tripod, a couple light stands, or even just put it on the ground. Sometimes adding a little movement from a slider can make a big impact in your shot. The one you see me using here is what's called the Philip Bloom Pocket Dolly from Kessler Crane. It's a great little slider, I really like it, I highly recommend it. One warning about it and probably other sliders is that if you're on a tripod, be careful as you get out towards the edges because the whole thing can topple over from the weight of the camera. When I use it on my tripod, I definitely don't go out to the edges. I've had too many close calls. My personal favorite way to move the camera is using a Steadicam. The great thing about a Steadicam is that it gives you freedom to move almost in any direction that you can think of, and it uses physics to keep the camera steady while you move. I'm being goofy here in this shot, but you can see that the camera stays relatively still even though I'm moving around a lot. And here's a shot from the camera's perspective because I'm pointing it at the mirror. There's a difference between the actual Steadicam brand, which is now a Tiffin brand, and other brands such as GlideCam and other stabilization systems. I've personally used both Steadicam and GlideCam, and my experience has been better with the Steadicam. I love Steadicam. The camera floats through the air and you can get right in there with the action. One warning though, they aren't easy to use. They take a lot of practice. I still need to get formal training myself, but it's definitely a lot of fun using these things. I want to add one big tip here regarding moving the camera just generally, no matter what system you're using, and that is that you consider starting with the end frame first. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times the end frame is the one that's going to have the biggest impact on your audience. So if you pick that end frame first after the movement, then you can go back and back it up and pick out what your beginning frame is going to be before the movement. Anyway, moving the camera can be a lot of fun. You have many different options, and I've really only covered a handful of them today, but hopefully you get inspired and get some ideas for your own videos. I hope you found this information helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.